right, so let's go over tibia internal rotation PAILs rails and how to set this up. As with any stretch, you'll actually find that you have to fine tune a lot of different dials and adjust and tweak things here and there in order to find your best stretch. And that's fine and that's normal and that's what we want. I'm going to show you some of those dials that you can tweak. So we'll do this on the ground, and if we're doing the right knee, we can change the angle of knee bend. That's the first dial that we can tweak. If you fully bend your knee and you experience any symptoms behind your knee or any sensations behind your knee, even if it's just pressure and not pain, we're actually going to open that angle up a little bit. So we're going to slide our foot a little bit further away and increase the angle between our tibia and our femur. You'll find the angle which is pain-free for you, and if you have to slide it out quite far, that's okay. As you progress this over time, you can pull that heel back closer and closer to you, bending your knee more and more once you're able to do so without symptoms. Once you've found your working angle for knee bend, we're going to assess your tibia rotation there. So now you're going to check how far you can make your tibia spin inwards on your femur. Okay? Careful when you do that you don't just rotate through your ankle. So see how my foot's flat here? If I cheat and I rotate that ankle, that means that that motion's coming from my ankle rather than my knee. I'm going to do my best to keep my foot flat as I rotate my knee inwards, such that when I place my foot on the ground, the bone underneath my big toe, the ball of your foot there, is actually on the ground. You don't want it to be lifted up. Once you've found that angle, we're then going to tweak this again. We're now going to fine tune another small dial here by actually trying to collapse your arch inwards. So once you're in that position, you're then going to try and make your foot as flat and as long as you possibly can on the inside by rotating through that foot. And at the same time, you're then going to drive your knee out. So you're going to find that your knee wants to drift inwards. You want to do your best to drive that knee out while maintaining that flat arch. That bone underneath your big toe and your big toe itself should stay on the ground. For a lot of people, you'll just get a stretch already just with those few things. For other people, you can take it a little bit further, and I'll do another video on that another time. Once you've got all that set up, you then have two options in terms of blocking yourself. You can either use a heavy object, and you can place a heavy object on the outside of your foot, or if you don't have a heavy object but you've got decent hip mobility, you can heel hook yourself and place your heel on the opposite side, and you can use that to block the foot. The closer that your block, whether it's an object or your heel, is to your heel, meaning like your heel on this side, the less aggressive this is going to be. The more that you move that towards your pinky toe, the more aggressive this is going to be. Okay? So let's say I'm going to use a heavy object. I'm then going to hang out here and I'm going to stretch. Okay? Ideally 2 to 3 minutes is great. Then we're going to do our PAILs rails after that. When you do your PAILs rails, you do whatever was prescribed to you by myself or whoever you were seeing. A standard would be, say, 30 seconds, depending on the effort, but as you increase the intensity, you would then decrease how long you're pushing. So if I'm pushing with max effort, I'm probably going to only do it for 10, 15 seconds tops. Whereas if I'm pushing at a lighter intensity, say 30%, I'm going to go upwards of like 30, maybe even 60 seconds or anywhere in between. So go with whatever was prescribed to you. What you're going to do is you're going to start to imagine your knee rotating outwards for the PAILs. So I like to imagine that I've got something attached to the front of my tibia and I'm trying to pull it out to the side. Sometimes I'll take my hand, I'll stuff it behind the outside of my knee, and I'll just try and squeeze my fingers, squeezing my calf on that side, squeezing my hamstring on that side, trying to develop as much tension on that side as I can as I think about spinning outwards. Try not to just focus on your foot, okay? Because we want to drive these changes at our knee. So you'll slowly work up to rotating outwards using the intensity that is, again, prescribed to you. You'll hold that for the period of time prescribed to you, and then you're going to reverse immediately. And you would shift into rails, which will be attempting to rotate that bone inwards now. So sometimes I'll stuff my hand underneath this side of my knee for this part. And now you're squeezing medial hamstring, medial calf, and you're now trying to drag that tibia further inwards, almost as if you're trying to pull your foot away from the object or your heel, but you're doing so via knee rotation and not via ankle rotation. So try to keep that big toe on the ground. You'll hold that for the desired time period again that was prescribed to you. You would slowly relax, If you actually did create some space there, you would then just bring your object a little bit closer to you and you would do your next set there. Careful as you go through this though. Your knee's gonna wanna drift inwards. You wanna make sure it stays stacked over top that ankle or drive it out as best you can. And once you get into that new position, same thing, flatten that arch out, knee drives out, resume your stretch, and then take a little break before you do your next set of PAILs rails. You would repeat that for, again, how many reps was prescribed to you. If something wasn't prescribed to you and you have no clue what you're doing here, how to do this, how long to start, how hard you should push in those early phases, just reach out to myself or somebody else who can help educate you on this kind of work and how it works and how we start to program it in the early phases. Hopefully that helps.